We'll give it one more minute and we'll go ahead and get started. And I believe, is it recording already?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We will.
By the way, that bread that you passed out was really good. That Dia del Muerto bread.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't get one that has the cards.
Oh, okay. I'll send you her info. Yeah, well, it was, homemade. It makes a little difference from what you buy at Fiesta or El Rancho, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And she has some that are stuffed with Nutella or cajeta, cream cheese. They're all so good. 5 pounds. Good. Since I met her.
I'm so glad I missed that one.
Okay, well, it's right at noon, and we will keep admitting people as we see them come in. But we'll go ahead and start. Maria, take it over.
Yes. So looks like everyone is pretty much familiar. Thank you everyone for taking the time to come on to our Lunch and Learn. First off, I want to thank everyone for joining us here with the Greater North Texas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Always become a part of something greater. This is a chamber for anyone who wants to make a difference in our community. We're a nonprofit organization that helps businesses all over DFW by helping them connect through technology, establish a reputable brand, educate and mentor those who seek the knowledge to be a successful entrepreneur. Feel free to contact us at info@GNTHCC.org or 214-952-5687. With that said, I want to just remind that our values are integrity, servant leadership, collaboration, and education. And I'd like to introduce Estela Gomez Garrett. She's currently our Madam Chair of Greater North Texas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and is passionate about working in unity with all groups in the North Texas area. And I can personally attest to that. She is a very giving person and in the interest of the community and giving back. So take the stage. There you go.
Okay, well, I don't want to take the stage. I just want to thank you so much for taking the moderator's seat today, and thank our guest today, Dr. Letti Cavazos, that I'm so thrilled that she found us, so we found her. And I know that she is going to be a great asset to our community, to our organization. So thank you very much for your time and all of you that have joined us. We hope that you enjoy this. And if you have any questions at the end of the presentation, please feel free to make them. And thank you and welcome.
Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Letti Cavazos. She's the founder and CEO of behavioral health. She's a behavioral health therapist affiliated with Canenta Center for Healing and Empowerment. She is located in the deep heart of Addison, Texas. Letti Cavazos has over 30 years of social service experience. She received her bachelor's degree from Texas A&M and in human relations, received her master's degree in social work at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and completed her doctor of social work at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. She has dedicated her career to working with the homeless population, specializing in mental health and trauma-informed care. Thank you. Are you there, Leti?
Yes, thank you so much for the introduction and for having me here today. And I'm excited about talking about mental health in the Hispanic community today.
Definitely. We have been, all week, we've been excited. We kind of have been sharing thoughts. And so we're excited to hear from you. We've already had great feedback from some people that have met you. So we're excited. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with some of these questions. And then if anyone has questions, you can put it in the IM and we'll get to them at the end. How does the Hispanic culture view mental health?
Well, I think that's a challenging question because there are a lot of misconceptions about mental health. And I think within the Hispanic community, what we find is that we're so family oriented that a lot of times we think that we should be able to resolve that amongst ourselves and not have to talk to somebody outside the family, or if I seek out services or my child seeks out services, then they're going to be labeled as crazy. And I don't want people to think that my family's crazy. And there's a lot of things that go into why there's a misconception about mental health within the community. The other part is, and we'll talk about a little bit more, is that for the most part, we're very strong in our religion and feeling like, God will handle it, or we'll pray about it, and it'll take care of itself. Or I think the other big part is not really understanding how important it is, because especially if it's individuals that are immigrants themselves, or their parents were immigrants, like they feel like they don't have time to worry about that stuff. They've got to work. They've got to, just get things done. And if I'm feeling a little depressed or whatever, that's not something I need to deal with, because I've got to get to work. I've got to take care of the kids. I've got to do all the things I've got to do. And there's not importance put on it, because there's so much more that needs to get done in life.
And you're exactly right. I'm just thinking about that, going back in my childhood. Talk about the stigmas of counseling in the Latino community, and that probably is a little bit from what you talked about in this first question. So I'll go back and I'll say the stigma of counseling with Latinos is labeling in the educational setting. Many families worry about labels and how they can potentially negatively affect their child. Sometimes these labels can even lead parents to believe something is wrong with their child.
Right.
So,
and I think that's the hard part about being labeled. And unfortunately, in the American society, if you use insurance, they want a label. And so not all the time do you need a label when there's mental health issues, right? Sometimes it's people just need additional skills on how to overcome things. And there is a stigma about, if my child is diagnosed with ADHD or depression or anxiety or even a learning disorder, how is that going to affect them moving forward? The flip side of that is to really understand that a lot of the times it's to help the child. So if the child has a diagnosis, then they're able to get the resources they need to set them up for success in school. And a lot of times that doesn't follow them to their adult life, because an employer is not going to know what's in their school records. And it does a disservice when they don't receive the services they need to help them regulate emotions or stress or depression that they may be struggling with. I think as adults too, trying to come to grips with, I'm diagnosed with depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder. What does that mean? And hopefully through education, removing that label and really understanding that all this is teaching you how to have skills to be your best self, not to stigmatize you or to set you aside from the rest of your friends or family. It's really to help you be the best you can be as a person.
a better version of yourself. How does one's religion affect the concept of seeking counseling outside the church? I'm sure you get lots of questions that, especially.
So, religion is a big one, because a lot of times people think that if I just pray hard enough, or I'm struggling with this because I did something wrong and God's punishing me, or this is a sin from my parents that was passed down, or there's a lot of beliefs that God can heal me. And yes, God can heal you. But there's also my take on it, which may not be everybody's, is that God also gives us the resources to help others heal themselves. And so he gives us the knowledge and the ability to share that with others so that you can overcome those distresses that you have. And it's not turning your back on God or not having faith if you go and seek out help.
Yeah. Is that a hard subject to touch sometimes with people? Is that something, because you have to do you have to separate your personal feelings sometimes with what's going on in that dilemma, or maybe a difference of religion?
Yeah.
And
Well, I think that's the good thing about counseling, is that it's not about what I believe or what what my biases are. I have to put all that aside at the door and be there where the client's at and really understand their perspective and their feelings and help them work through that. And if they feel like, I'm going to do these skills or take this medication, but I'm also going to pray. One thing that we've learned from research is that their relationship with God and prayer is such a healing factor. And if you don't have that, you're less likely to be successful in your treatment. And so we try to find a way to bring those together so that people understand that that's part of healing, is making sure that that relationship stays strong.
that's awesome. That's really good to hear. Why would you need to tell your problems to someone else when you have family, or could pray about your problems? Or in my example, I have my husband, he could easily say, why are you going to speak about our problems? That's the biggest, I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have. Why am I going to go tell beyond that? We know that you keep it there. What happens there stays there. But why does somebody need to do that?
Well, there's lots of reasons why, but I think that the biggest thing for us to remember is that sometimes we need somebody with an outside perspective to kind of take a look at it. And as much as our family loves us and our family wants the best for us, and whether it's our spouse, our sisters, or parents, whoever, there also is a lot of generational traits, traumas that are passed down. And if that is your norm, if that's what you grew up with, you don't know anything outside of that. And so when you think about generational traumas that come down, people repeat patterns over and over and over again. And bringing somebody in that is there to support you and help you learn new ways, new skills, is beneficial, because it's kind of like having fresh eyes on the situation. And people don't realize that they're repeating patterns until you start pointing it out. And you've heard that saying that a lot of times you marry your mother or father, depending, because that's what's comfortable. If you're raised in a house where somebody's struggling with depression and they're always dealing with being angry all the time, or being not having energy, that's normal for you. That level of stress in your home is normal. So when you're with somebody that doesn't have that, it feels uncomfortable, and you're like, this is like a weird relationship. I don't want to be in this, And so being able to have somebody that can be like, okay, let's take a step back and take a bigger look on what's going on. And that's one of the things that we look at a lot is, let's talk about how your parents were. How was their relationship? How are your relationship with your siblings? Tell me about your grandparents, and you start to see patterns and map it out for them. And they're a lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the same thing. And so it is 100% beneficial.
It's kind of be aware of it. Maybe they don't know, they're not aware of it because it's normal for them. Can you describe what some of the generational traits and traumas could be? Some examples that people may not not aware of.
Yeah. So one of the things, I think I talked about it, and I think this one maybe a lot of people can relate to, is our parents, when they come, like, they work their butts off, right? to make a life for us. They come to this country to be successful. And then that trait is passed to their children, that's passed to their children. And so we have these generations of people that are workaholics, because even if you have a higher education, your mentality is, I have to work because I have to respect and honor my parents and my grandparents, because they came and they worked to give me this opportunity. And I'll tell you a story. One young lady was in college and she was like stressing herself out because she needed to get good grades, and she was just studying because that was what she was taught. And she went to the counseling center and they diagnosed her with bipolar disorder, because they said that her workaholic mindset was a manic stage. And it was really a cultural issue. It wasn't a manic stage, but there was a disconnect on understanding that this was a cultural trait that was passed down. It's not healthy, but it would have been approached differently had they really looked at that.
Interesting. Can you tell us what is depression?
Depression is it's when the chemicals in your brain aren't firing exactly the way they should. And so you're not getting the chemicals that gives you pleasure the way other people would get them. It causes a lot of behaviors that look different in other people. I mentioned that sometimes people get angry, sometimes people sleep more, sleep less, eat more, eat less, their energy level fluctuates, their self-esteem goes down. There's a lot of different behaviors that you can start to see come bubbling forward when there's depression. Depression affects just their daily life, and sometimes in more extremes than the other. But depression also can be genetic. And so if your parents struggled with depression, there's a high likelihood that you'll suffer from depression. And it's not anything that anybody did wrong. It's just the way the chemicals in the brain are set up. And so a lot of people struggle with that, but if they don't know that that's what it is, they just think, oh, they're just lazy, or they're just hot-headed, or whatever it is, that their behavior is displaying.
Well, and there's also that misconception, I would say. I hear a lot of youth, the new generation, like sometimes the youth, they'll just say, I'm depressed, or some people take that label as I'm depressed, but are they really, do you have to get diagnosed to be depressed, or is that something that just anyone can say, I'm depressed, today I'm depressed, but is it really the right interpretation? I could be sad, I could be, weather could be making me feel this way, but am I really depressed? How can somebody distinguish that?
Yeah, so I think to say I'm depressed is like saying I'm sad today. Maybe it's in the moment or in the day, something happened that affected their mood that day. Depression is more long-term. It's like you can't shake it. You can't concentrate. There's all, I can't get out of bed. It takes all the energy in me to just take a shower, and it's just lasting for a long time. So there is a distinction of, I may be depressed today because, my favorite heels broke, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be in bed for the next week,
Is depression curable?
It is and isn't. It's kind of one of those things that you're going to have to work on for a while, and so part of working with somebody who struggles with depression is teaching them skills to kind of reset the way their brain thinks and reprogram. The good thing about our brain is there's this thing called neuroplasticity. And so you can rewire your brain by giving them different messages. And so, but it's something you have to continue to work on and continue to practice. And so we do look at a lot of giving ourselves positive affirmations, or doing gratitude journals or exercising, doing things that's going to help the brain start producing more of that chemicals.
Great, great. What kind of medication, or is that something that you can prescribe, or is there, what about medication in depression? What can you tell us?
Medication is something that I think people shy away from sometimes because they feel like, I don't want to take drugs for that. And medication is really, it can be very beneficial because like I said, sometimes it's a lot of times it's the chemical imbalance in the brain. And so sometimes the medication will just help jumpstart it. Sometimes it's needed to sustain it. So people are different. Some people will take it for a short time, but they're doing all these other things holistically. And so they don't only need it for a short time to kind of jumpstart that. Other people, their brain just doesn't naturally do that no matter what they do. So they need it for the long term. So it is an individual's preference, but it is, I think, something that I encourage everybody to look at and at least consider. The other thing I tell them, I cannot prescribe it. So I recommend they go to a psychiatrist or a psychiatric nurse practitioner because they can get it from the gynecologist or their family practice doctor, but they're not trained in that specifically. So you want to go to someone that really is trained on psychotropic medications. And when you take medication for mental health, you shouldn't feel weird when you take them. And I think that's one of the things I hear. It's like, I just didn't feel right. I felt foggy. I felt, tingly or whatever. When you take medication for mental health issues, you should feel nothing because you're back at baseline, right? You're feeling what your normal is. If the medication's making you drowsy or jittery or whatever, then it's not the right medication. And so you have to go back and talk to the doctor and change it. And because everybody's makeup is different, it's going to take a few times trial and error to find the right medication for you. And I think a lot of people don't know that. And so their family practice doctor will give them a medication, they'll try it, they won't like it, and then it's done. Instead of understanding that it is a process to find the right one for you.
Mm-hmm. Now, can you describe what the difference between depression and anxiety? We hear that as well with,
yeah.
I find it a lot right now. There's more cases of anxiety. There's more worry out there. So what would we say on that?
So anxiety is like constant worry, like almost to a point where you can't think or concentrate about anything else because you're thinking about this one thing. And a lot of times when you get anxiety, it'll affect your breathing or it'll affect your, like you'll start sweating or trembling. Sometimes people shake, when they get anxiety, and it increases your heart rate. And so it's like this perpetual state of worry. And so a lot of times, depression and anxiety will go hand in hand because you'll see people with depression will have anxiety too. It's more common that they'll be diagnosed with both than one or the other. And so I think that goes back to teaching people about breathing and regulating their brain, because when you're in that state, it's kind of like your brain has flipped to that fight, flight, or freeze state. Mm-hmm. And when you're in that state, it's hard to regulate your emotions. And so we do a lot of work on relaxing the brain and bringing it back down. And so a lot of breathing, meditation, being in the moment. Like you can't control what happened in the past and you can't control what's going to happen in the future. Like, let's just be in the moment right now to help bring all of those symptoms down.
Love that. Be in the moment. We all need that, right? Tell us a little bit about your office, your staff. Do you have bilingual staff?
Yes. So all of my staff are bilingual. I have one clinician who does ASL, so American Sign Language. to help with the deaf and hearing impaired community. All my other staff or clinicians speak Spanish. They're all very passionate about helping the Hispanic community, because what we know is that there are not a lot of Spanish speaking counselors out there. And one of the things that we found, talking to some people in the community, is that they've gone to counselors that speak Spanish, but they weren't Hispanic and they didn't understand the culture. And so it wasn't a good fit for them, because you can speak the language, but if you don't understand all the nuances of the culture, then it's hard to understand, like, why, my mom comes with me every time I have a session, or, why I feel like I have to talk to my family about what's going on, or the guilt or shame that may come with me coming to counseling, and how that impacts the family,
Yes, yes. Tell me about awareness of anything going on in the mental and in the situation. Maybe I need to get it off my chest. And again, it's telling our culture it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to be aware about it. Why do you believe it's important to talk about it?
To talk about mental illness?
Mm-hmm.
I think that our job now is that we've seen how many people, or how the impact of mental health treatment is for just kind of the community at large. And for some reason in the Hispanic community, we seek out help the least. There's probably, I think I read, like 10% of all Hispanics ever go to mental health treatment. And so the more we talk about it, the more we can normalize it, the more we can destigmatize it, remove the shame that comes along with it, let people know that it's not something to be embarrassed about, that going to counseling doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means that you just need some more skills to be the best you. And so we want to help do that in a way that's comfortable for the community. And so in our facility, we have our location in Addison, but we're also working to go into the neighborhoods and find locations where we can be in their neighborhood, where they're comfortable, and with clinicians that look like them, that speak their language, that understand their culture. So the more we can do that, the more hopefully we can help more families, so they're not struggling by themselves, trying to deal with their loved one that's struggling with a mental health issue, and they don't know what to do with them. They're not alone in this. There's resources to help them.
Yes, yes. Well, it's so good that you mentioned that, because through your education and your expertise, the plans of helping in any community, maybe an outreach program. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking it from that vibe that's where you're planning on going and expanding out.
Yeah. So I've been having a lot of conversations with different organizations in the community, and how can we go in and help support them as they're serving the Hispanic community. And so we're partnering with a lot. We don't have anything formally, so I don't want to say any names, but we're partnering a lot with just different community centers and schools, and trying to figure out how can we go in and help the best way we can to support them in the work that they're doing. And I'll give you an example. I met with a school that has predominantly Hispanic families, and so they were really open to say, you can use our space and serve our families, because none of our counselors speak Spanish, and 90% of their students are Hispanic. And so they said, we can talk to the students, but we can't talk to their parents. And if their parents are struggling, we can't serve them, because we can only serve the students. And so being able to do that, I think, is going to open a lot more doors, and be able to help reach out to people in a way that that they feel more comfortable. It's not like they're asked to go to Addison when they are living in Oak Cliff, right?
Exactly. Looks like we have something the board did want to bring up. Hispanic Latin communities show similar vulnerability to mental illness as a general population, but they face disparities in both access and quality of treatment. More than half of Hispanic young adults ages 18 to 25 with serious mental illness may not receive treatment. I'd like you to speak out on that if it's possible.
Yeah, so I think that brings up several things that I didn't mention, is that sometimes insurance is a barrier if they don't have insurance, right? And so one of the things that we're doing is we set our prices lower than DFW average to make it more affordable. And so our individual sessions are at $100 a session, but we also partnered with a foundation that has agreed to cover 60% of that cost. So that only leaves the clients or the families paying 40% of the cost of counseling, which hopefully will remove the financial barrier for them to receive services. One of the other big ones is when they're undocumented and they feel like if they go to counseling that they're going to get reported. Well, it's actually illegal and unethical for us to report that. So that is something that hopefully we can get that message out and remove that barrier, that they can come and feel safe, that we're not going to call anybody. There's nobody for us to call, that we're here to support them. And that's our primary job and goal, is to just serve them and without fear of anything else.
Yeah. Well, and with you saying that, everyone that's taken the time to be on this call, becoming a part of something greater, anything that you could give us, exactly like what you just said, because we can throw that out in the community. We can use that in our conversations, and we can offer comfort to people and knowing that they could be okay, that they can go somewhere and feel normal, that I can go and vent. What other pieces of information you think would be important, or anything that you could share with us that we could share, because we can be part of your seat. And that's what, again, thank you again for being with us on this call, because that's what it's about. It's about, we're going to give back to the community at the end of the day, but how can we help you? What could you share with us?
Well, I think one of the things that we are really focusing on is removing barriers, right? And so we remove the barrier of the cost. Hopefully we remove the barrier of location by trying to come into their neighborhoods. We also do telehealth, if that's something that they feel comfortable with. And I think anything, I'm going to put the question back to you guys, anything that you guys see that this is the struggle that the family's having or the individual's having, why they don't want to go to counseling, hopefully share that with us, and we can try to figure out how to remove that. We remove the barrier of the language differences, and I think that's, speaking to the comment, that's one of the reasons that we see the decrease in the number of people seeking help, is because there are not a lot of Spanish speaking clinicians, and that's the other part of what we do, is trying to empower those of us who are going on to get an education to go the extra step to get licensure to help the community, because for some reason, we're stopping at the degree and not getting the license, which limits the amount of people that are out there practicing, but also it limits the practitioners, income capability. And so behind the scenes, non-client facing, my goal is to empower as many Latinos, Latinas to move forward in their career, so that they can not only be successful in their own right and dictate their own earning potential, but to serve the community that has given so much to us. I think you're muted.
Yes, beautiful. That's awesome to hear that. Well, anything else you'd like to add? Would you like to give us your information, and that way everyone, and we could put it in, we could type it in there, just where anyone can reach out to you. And then I'll go ahead and leave it open. If anyone has questions, unmute yourself, and definitely feel free to ask Ms. Cavazos anything that you need to. Looks like we do have a question here. Leave us some tips on how to handle this COVID situation. Some of us get depressed through it. We're using the word.
Yes, and I think that with COVID, it's been such a game changer for so many of us because it was such a depressing time, and we're such social beings, you know, that we need other people in our life, and not being able to connect with our friends or our family sometimes, you know, we didn't see our families for a while, was really impactful on our mental health. And so I would encourage everybody to be safe, but to really do those things that really bring you joy, and start to appreciate and enjoy the little moments in life, because I think all of that was taken away from us. And even hobbies, a lot of times people's hobbies are outside their house, and so they weren't able to go out and do things. And so as much as you can, just try to bring back that joy that you had that pre-COVID, those things that brought you joy. And if you didn't really take a look at that, really take a look at what is it that brings me healing and fulfillment and replenishment in my life, so that I can take time to do those things for me. Because back to the earlier conversation, almost everybody I meet that's Hispanic, we work our butts off, like I said. And so we have to be very intentional about setting that time aside for us to replenish and to rest and to rejuvenate for the next week and the next month. I think.
Question. Do you also, hi, my name is Julia Garrido. I'm also with the Chamber, and I'm really, really excited that you are partnering with a lot of schools, first of all, because you are right, there is a lot of need for Spanish speaking, students, families, like just in the community in general, right? But you also offer marriage counseling, and what type of insurances do you take?
Yes, we do offer marriage counseling. We have several counselors that work with a specific curriculum. Let's see. And so we do me specifically, I do a lot of marriage counseling. We don't take insurance at this time because we're still trying to build one, and two, insurances can be a little fickle sometimes, and we never know when we're going to get paid. So as we're building, we're trying to figure that out. But I think one of my goals is next year, I'm going to try to at least get on some of the major ones, and Medicaid especially, because Medicare, Medicaid, because we want to be able to serve a lot of people that maybe wouldn't get services otherwise. I forgot the other part of your question. Oh, we also do premarital counseling. So if that's ever anybody that got engaged and that wants to do that, that's really important also, because I think that we don't really get taught how to have a successful marriage, and we just jump into it like, we're going to do this, kind of like parenthood, we just do it. And so I think it's important to be able to sit down and talk about, who's going to take the trash out, who's going to feed the dog, who's going to be responsible for raising the kids. When I get mad, this is what I do. How do I fight fairly without trying to tear the other person down? Because this is the person I love most in this world. I chose to marry them. I don't want to hurt them. And so being able to do all those things also, like pre-marriage and marriage, to set you up for success because you want to be happy the rest of your life. And our premarital classes are certified so that you do get the discount and the time waiver for our classes.
Can you tell us once again, I know there was categories, and forgive me for not having the flyer with me,
That's okay.
what type of services you offer? So you
Yeah,
have,
so we do children ages 5 and up. So we do children play therapy, we do adolescents. For some reason, our clinicians love adolescents. So that's a big popular demographic. We do adults, we do couples and families. And we have one counselor that specializes in eating disorders. And so if somebody's struggling with not eating or overeating, she specializes in that, which I think is a big topic within the Hispanic community also, because there's so many cultural messages we get about food, and they're mixed messages, like, you know, mija, you're gaining some weight. Are you eating too much? And then why aren't you eating everything on your plate? Right. So it's like trying to work through that. And we have another counselor that specializes in trauma. And so she really is passionate about helping people overcome traumas, whatever that may be. And everybody experiences trauma in life. If they tell you they've never had a trauma in their life, they're lying, because everybody experiences trauma because we interpret things differently. And something may have impacted us in a way that we didn't even realize, or we did realize, and it stayed with us, and we've carried that message for years and years and years. And so she's really passionate about helping people get past that.
anyone else? I see we have a couple of guests on here. If you want to, we'll give you the opportunity also to, in a few minutes, to introduce yourself. That way we know who's on here. So did I hear you were from maybe in San Antonio, or your parents were in San Antonio?
Yes.
Like the Dallas area?
Yeah, so we moved here in 2015, and if you guys want to hear a story,
Yes.
one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about serving the Hispanic community up here in DFW is because I came from San Antonio, and we're 90% Hispanic over there, so you're just kind of one of many. And I came up here, and it was the first time ever in my life that I felt discrimination, and I felt like, oh wow, this is something different. And so when I moved up here, I accepted a position to run a big shelter in Dallas. And so I was the director of a domestic violence shelter. And I went to an event, and they were introducing me around, and they introduced me as the shelter director, or that I ran the shelter. And the young lady that I was introduced to said, "What do you mean she runs the shelter?" And she said, "Well, she runs the shelter, you know, the building where the ladies go." And the lady looked at me, she's like, "Oh, are you in charge of housekeeping?" And it took me aback. And when I looked around, I realized that the only other Hispanics in the room were the wait staff. And I realized, like, okay, I'm in a new place now. And then the more I've been here and working, I've realized that there's not a lot of resources for the community. There's not a lot of people that are leaning into how do we support the community in a way that respects the culture and does it in a culturally sensitive way.
That's one of the reasons I'm so excited to have met you, because we seem like we identify so much in so many areas. You know, we do recognize that there is a whole community that is not being served. You know, and I know there's a lot of organizations, a lot of great organizations, but they cater to the people that don't really need help. They're already, they're kind of up here and they're, but, I've always just, and this kind of to use a little religion, but I mean, Jesus didn't come to save the people that are doing well. He came to save the sinners and to heal the sick, so that's my motto has always been, go to the people that need the help. You don't have to be begging people that don't want the help because they don't want the help. Let's go. And I think this is where I'm just so excited that we meet people like you that have this servant's heart, that really have a heart for the community to reach out. And of course it's a business, but yeah, we're all in some kind of business, but I think I have figured out that business will come to you once you just put your heart and you're out there to serve the community. And I think this is what our chamber, the main mission has always been, is that vision of servant leadership. Get to know the people, get to know where they are, what their needs are. And anyway, I get excited every time I hear people like you. I had wondered about your name, Cannenta. What does that mean?
Well, I had been searching and searching for a name for our center for a long time. And I always tell people it was a God thing that I found this name because it's so different and nobody knows what it means. But when you research it, it actually has Latin origins, and what it means is a woman who possesses healing powers. Wow. And although I don't have healing powers, I have skills that I can teach people to help them in their healing journey.
I love that.
That's beautiful.
Maria, there is a QR code that Julia has prepared for us. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, there is a QR code at the top. You might see it under Julia Garrido. I'm not sure if she can share it, but you can click on that, and that will give you all the information for Greater North Texas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So something new that we're playing with, and we're trying to keep up with technology.
Okay, I think she shared it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Julia, if you want to unmute, definitely share with us.
Yes, so the QR code that you're seeing, when you take a picture, it will actually take you to our website. It also has the information for our Facebook, our Instagram, and LinkedIn on there. So if you need any information about the chamber, please go ahead and follow us and, share this information. We're here to help the community. Yay, it worked.
I'm living proof. Thank you. Thank you so
this
much.
Is what I love about people that have joined us, is that they all have an initiative and they put their words into action. I mean, we're these kind of people that what can I do? How can I do? What can I do to make this better? So I really appreciate, Julia, you doing this for us. I guess we can share this. Other people can. I don't know how this works, but you post it on our social media so people can follow.
I do have someone else that we wanted to introduce to give us or introduce herself. Norma, can you hear me?
Oh, okay. It's my turn, I guess. I will not take off my camera because I do not look anything like my picture at the moment. Just like anybody else that works from home. So I work for the National Dairy Council. I've been with them for just shy of 4 years now. I actually joined this call because I work a lot with the Latino community at the moment. I myself came from an undocumented background. My parents were undocumented and I was undocumented for the majority part of my life up until literally about 4 years ago. But I've been in this position for a little bit now. And so I work with Gen Youth, and we do the foundation that feeds them about, I'm going to say about 105% of Texas right now. So we feed the entire DISD community, and then 8 other states in the United States. We have the contracts that feed the schools, that be able to provide free lunches for kids. But with it, we also provide nutritional training programs for a lot of the staff that works in the cafeteria, and most of them are Spanish speaking staff. So I lead a lot of those trainings, both virtual and in person. And so I just kind of joined to see if I could get a new resource that I could offer them. I do, like I said, I speak to them, a lot of them one-on-one, because I am the only Spanish speaking person in my entire organization. So it's just really important to me to have a resource that I can refer them to when they talk to me. I think they assume that I'm in the medical field because I work with nutritionists, but it's not at all the case. I'm not. I only work with Gen Youth and the feeding and the nonprofit organizations, but I don't have anybody to refer them to. So I just kind of hopped on to see if I could learn a little bit and see if this was a great resource for me to send them to, in the case that they have more questions and things like that.
Thank you, Norma. Hopefully we'll get to meet you soon, but that's awesome. And that is our job here. It's connecting everyone and helping each other. And with, I think, just everything that you've said looks like we found you a connection right there.
Right, great. Well, I want to follow up on that, and maybe we can have a little further talk, because we want to partner up with you or collaborate in any way that we can get the word out. Anything that we can work with you, we're willing to.
I actually think I might reach out to see. That's actually what I was going to ask you, see if I could have a couple of brochures. We have just resumed in-person learning for a lot of the staff in the schools in DISD. And so we're going to attempt to see if we have like an ability to be able to give out some material that they could refer back to.
Yeah, if you don't mind, send us your email and maybe a phone number. You can either do that privately or put it in the chat, and we'll reach out to you and send you some information. And Dr. Leti, we have some of your brochures. I think we can also put that in the mail for her, or you can.
And then we have Jeff Serrano.
Oh, yeah. Nice to meet you all. I'm not going to come on camera because I didn't think I would be on camera today. Can you hear me?
You're very far away, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I didn't honestly know there was a Greater North Texas Hispanic Chamber. So when I accepted the invitation to be on this, I was just really curious about the organization. I am originally from Houston and been here in the Dallas area probably now 35 years. So, I claim both Dallas and Houston as my hometowns now. But when I moved here, I don't know who it was, the person that said they moved, I think it was Dr. Cavazos, who said when they moved here from San Antonio, they felt some discrimination. And that's exactly the way I felt when I moved here from Houston 35 years ago. Was the places that I could normally get into, I would not be able to get into. And I know things have changed in 35 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area since then, but it was interesting to hear that same sort of reflection about, this area and still things that I guess need to be worked on, particularly in the Hispanic community. Right now, I am in search of work. I have been working in the Dallas area as a nonprofit fundraiser. So I've been in the nonprofit as a fundraiser for the past 25, 28 years. And so I know the community very well. My area of expertise is corporate relations. So I've worked with many of the corporations in the Dallas area. Many of the representatives I maintain as longtime friends. So I just, when I moved here from Houston, and I was really feeling quite out of my realm and was thinking of moving back home to Houston, I thought, well, the easy thing, and I moved here because of a corporate relocation. When Mervyn's was moving into the Dallas-Fort Worth market, Mervyn's department stores, I was hired as a copywriter, and really, thought, well, I'll, move to Dallas and see what things are like there. And as I was here a few months, I was really not finding that I really liked it here much. But I thought the easy way for me to do would be go home to where I'm used to. But the hard thing or the more challenging thing would be to make this a home and find new friends. So I just looked in the telephone book, for those of us that are old enough to remember telephone books, and went down and found Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I didn't know anybody there. They didn't know me. But I called up and I said, look, I have a degree in journalism with a specialization in public relations. I'm a copywriter with a department store, and I'm available to help volunteer on whatever you have. I didn't know what they would say. The president called me back, Michael Gonzalez at the time, and said, sure, we're getting ready to do our inauguration ceremony in September. We could use your help. So come out on such and such a date. And, I was working in Plano at the time. The Hispanic Chamber, Dallas Hispanic Chamber offices were on Stemmons. So I would have to leave my office at 5. And back then, Central Expressway was still, 1 lane, 2 lanes going north and south. Traffic was horrible. But I would get to the chamber offices by 6 and joined a group of people that literally to this day, I credit to keeping me in the Dallas area. So many of them I am lifelong friends with today. And it was really the changing point for me deciding to stay in Dallas and really try to make this a home. I still am very much, roots are still in Houston. I still have lots of family there, so I will always be a Houstonian. But I got married here. My wife is from Dallas, so I've been here a long time. But it just goes to show, I think that, sometimes taking the easy road is not necessarily the best way. And I've just enjoyed, working in the community here. And so I'm hoping to find a new position, probably in the fundraising area. And I'm just doing the LinkedIn search right now and joining on conversations like this. So it's just nice to meet all of you. I'm glad to know about the North Texas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Send us an email. We'd like to follow up with you, meet you in person. We definitely could use more volunteer help, so we can get in touch with you, talk to you a little more. Your background is very, very important and very interesting. So thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
And definitely want to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll get that to you shortly.
Thank you.
I want to go ahead and thank everyone for attending, for taking your time to come to this Lunch and Learn. We look forward to next month having our next Lunch and Learn. If you have any ideas for us, please share an email with us, any suggestions, anything that we can do better or something that you're interested in looking at. And again, we want to thank Dr. Letti Cavazos. Thank you so much for your time and your undivided attention and answering all our questions.
Yes, and I want to encourage, if you are interested in becoming a member of our chamber, we have membership information on our website. It's GNTHCC.org. And as a member, you have the opportunity to present a lunch and learn session, which we will record and share over again on YouTube, on all of our social media platforms. So please look into that. Our website, like I said, is GNTHCC.org. And if you scan the little QR code, then you'll have our information right there. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Letti. Thank you. And we look forward to more sessions with you. I think, like I said, we know every one of us knows someone who needs to go see Dr. Letti. We just need to convince them that there is no stigma, there's no shame, and that there is help. The cost is really very reasonable, especially with the grant, the help that you've gotten. So give her a call. Don't be shy. And, you know, we all go through periods when we go through anxiety, we go through depression, we go through, you know, marriage. I mean, I'm one of those, like, I just went in. I just got married because I thought, well, that's what I'm supposed to do, and had no idea what I was doing. I still don't, but here we are learning every day. Thank you so much, everyone.